Welcome to the Explainer. So today we're digging into something that's been completely blowing up in developer circles lately. It's called the Claude Design Agents Toolkit. And look, the promise here is absolutely massive. It basically claims to magically transform Claude into a fully fledged automated UI designer that runs right on your local machine. But, in the wild world of open source tools, a really shiny README file doesn't always guarantee a working product. So today we're going to tear apart the architecture it describes, look at the official docs to see why these claims sound so incredibly plausible, and then, honestly, most importantly, we're going to examine the glaring gap between what is promised and what is actually sitting in the code.
First off, let's just ask the obvious question. Can Claude actually design UI natively, like right out of the box? Short answer, nope. While Claude Code is an insanely powerful agentic tool, out of the box, it lacks a dedicated built-in design layer. It just doesn't inherently understand layout reasoning or color semantics the way a human designer would. And that right there creates a massive gap for developers who want AI to not just write their back-end logic, but to actually spit out beautiful, responsive user interfaces.
Okay, let's dive into this. Today's explainer is broken down into 5 parts. 1. The UI design gap. 2. The toolkit's big promise. 3. The engine under the hood. 4. The implementation reality check. And 5. Verifiable alternatives for today.
All right, Section 1, the UI design gap.
So to understand what this toolkit is even trying to fix, we have to look at the baseline. By default, Claude Code is a local agent runtime paired with the command line interface. And it's fantastic with code. It can read your files, write new code, even run shell commands straight from your terminal. But it's fundamentally text and logic oriented. There's no UI generation pipeline under the hood. You ask it for a dashboard, sure, it'll write the code, but it isn't visually reasoning about the layout intent or the vibe of a color palette.
Moving on to Section 2, the toolkit's big promise.
Developers are understandably hungry for a solution here. And that brings us to this supposed silver bullet. It's the Claude Design-Agents-Toolkit, a repository published by the GitHub user Alfredo77777. This thing has already racked up 199 GitHub stars. That shows it's genuinely caught the attention of the community. It pitches itself as that missing visual layer, basically a whole set of specialized Claude Code subagents geared purely toward pumping out high-quality UI design, rather than just raw code. So according to their README, this thing works like magic in an ambitious 4-step pipeline. First, you drop a simple natural language prompt into your Claude Code CLI. Second, a specialized design subagent jumps in, processing the prompt with structured reasoning chains. Third, a semantic UI parser goes to work ripping out the layout intent and exact color values. And finally, a CSS and JS generator spits out your responsive design, totally ready to export to static HTML, React, or Vue. I mean, it sounds like a dream workflow, doesn't it? But wait, the feature list gets even wilder. We're talking custom Claude code hooks for quality checks, a whole plugin marketplace for community themes, skill-based templates for landing pages, a semantic color engine that apparently generates hex palettes based on emotion and brand identity, a multilingual locale mapper covering over 40 languages. They even throw in an OpenAI GPT-4o fallback mechanism just in case Claude is down. It's an absolutely incredible list of capabilities.
Which brings us to Section 3, the engine under the hood.
Now, why are so many smart developers believing these massive claims? Well, this brilliantly illustrates why it sounds so plausible. Claude Code's architecture actually relies on 2 totally separate pieces. You've got local execution, that's the runtime engine on your machine handling files and custom tools, and then you've got cloud intelligence, the Claude LLM acting as the brain up in the cloud, doing all the multi-turn reasoning and planning. Because the execution part is local, an agent theoretically could run custom local scripts, like a semantic UI parser. There's actually a great quote from the official CodeSignal Learn docs that hits the nail right on the head. They say, Claude Code is the engine, and the SDK is the remote control. The SDK essentially lets you control the agent programmatically with Python. It isn't just a basic chat wrapper. It is an interface to a full agent system that can spawn subagents and keep track of project-wide memory. So the foundational plumbing to build what this toolkit describes, it absolutely exists.
And here's the real kicker. The specific mechanism the toolkit claims to use, Claude Code Hooks, is actually a 100% real documented feature. You can genuinely set up a .claude/settings.json file to use pre-tool use hooks that literally lets you intercept Claude's actions and trigger custom node scripts right before Claude writes a file. From a pure architectural standpoint, everything in that README is structurally sound. But here we go. Section 4, the implementation reality check. It's time to put our investigator hats on, because a cool theory is vastly different from functional software. If you scroll through their repo, you'll see this super professional-looking OS compatibility table. It reassures you that the toolkit has full support for Linux, macOS Sonoma, Windows 11, you name it. It is clearly designed to make you feel completely confident that this is a mature, battle-tested product that is totally safe to install. And right below that super professional table, the documentation hits you with a deceptively simple installation command, npx claude-design-installer. It claims this one little command will configure Claude as a local design server in under 2 minutes. If you're a busy developer, it is incredibly tempting to just copy that, paste it in your terminal, and hit enter. So the crucial point here, and this is a massive caveat pointed out by analysts, is that npx is an incredibly powerful command. It will blindly fetch and execute whatever code happens to be sitting at that package name on the npm registry. If that package doesn't exist, or worse, if somebody malicious has grabbed that name, you are instantly executing totally unknown, unverified code directly on your local machine, using your user permissions. There's no sandbox saving you there. And honestly, the red flags just keep piling up when you look at the actual files in the repository. There is a staggering gap between that pristine README and reality. There's no package JSON. The plugin marketplace is a complete ghost town. There's zero actual code for that semantic color engine or the OpenAI fallback. To top it off, the download link points to a personal GitHub page's URL instead of a versioned NPM release. What we're looking at is a highly speculative README, likely engineered to farm GitHub stars and search visibility, that has completely outpaced its actual verifiable codebase. Okay, let's pivot to Section 5, Verifiable Alternatives for Today.
Discovering a repository is practically vaporware is a huge bummer, I know. But you don't have to risk your local machine to get this stuff done today. You actually have 2 proven, completely safe paths. First, you can just use the official Claude API directly. You can build your own custom agents using a generate_UI_component schema. You define the tool, Claude's brain calls it, and your secure code handles the rest. No black box dependencies. Alternatively, check out Anthrodic's Claude Managed Agents. If you use the agent_toolset of 2026-0401, you get a production-grade managed workflow out of the box. Yeah, both of these take a bit more elbow grease than a magical one-line install command, but the trade-off is you keep total, uncompromising control over your stack.
Which brings us to our final thought for today's explainer. The concepts behind the Claude Design Agents Toolkit, they're brilliant. They absolutely highlight the very real, very powerful capabilities of Claude Code's programmable architecture. But you really have to ask yourself, is the shiny promise of a speculative README ever worth the security risk of running an unverified, hidden script on your local machine? In the fast-moving Wild West era of open-source AI tools, verifying the actual code is just as important as reading the pitch. Stay curious out there, but definitely stay secure.